Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our 40th patient event. Now, if you haven't managed to join us this morning, this is all going to be pre-recorded. So you'll be able to go to our website, kidney.org.uk, on Tuesday and watch the whole event or the individual speakers. So we'll let you know via social media as well. So our next speaker is Andrew Cole. Now, this is a man who doesn't need much of an introduction, as most of us know him as an ex-England footballer. But do we know him as a kidney patient? Let's hear more.
My name is Nannar, and I'm the arts editor of ITV News. And today I'm here to talk to Andrew Cole, who is an ambassador for Kidney Research UK and, of course, is a former professional footballer and one of the most successful strikers of all time. And we're going to be talking to Andrew about his experience of kidney disease, transplant, and life after transplant. So why am I doing this? Well, I know all too well the impact that kidney disease had. Almost exactly 3 years ago, October the 11th, 2018, the date is seared into my brain, my husband Steve underwent his second kidney transplant. His first was as a young man in 1986 in New Zealand. Now, the emotional, physical, practical toll that kidney disease and transplant and living with transplant, dialysis has really difficult to explain unless you're living through it, but it cannot be underestimated. It does take a massive toll and it continues to do so. So first of all, a very, very big thank you to all of you who are raising awareness of kidney disease and the fantastic charities that continue to support patients and fund research to end kidney disease. Ultimately, ending kidney disease is really the only cure. So pleased to see you again, Andrew. You and I last talked at the beginning of lockdown, I think it was. We did a piece for News at 10, and we were doing something about people who are extremely vulnerable, and that's people like myself, like my husband, solid organ transplant recipients. How you were coping in lockdown. It's been hard for all of us, but particularly people like you and many others who really, really have had to shield. And we were just talking about the emotional impact of that. And Andrew, here we are at the other end. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm persevering as you do. Like you said, I'm like everybody else. I'm just getting on with things the best I know how to. I think the first lockdown wasn't too bad. I've got to be honest, it wasn't too bad. I think it was the second one. The second one really started to mess with me a little bit due to the fact that I'd gone that long period on the first one and done really well, but not being able to get out on the second one was really, really tough. Mentally, it was really, really hard on me.
Yeah, well, I can completely understand that. And sometimes it felt like people like yourself, like my husband, who were shielding, really shielding, felt a little bit like they were forgotten. I don't know whether you felt a bit like that, because that second one that came round, it was, okay, here we go again. I have to say, Andrew, the other night I was watching TV and there was a documentary on. I stumbled across a documentary, and it was all about Manchester United at the latter end of the 90s, of 1999, when Rupert Murdoch was trying to buy Manchester United. Completely forgot about that. And it was talking about why that team was so golden, was such an amazing asset. And it was showing us the stars and the goals. And you, of course, you were all over it. There were golden goals. My God, you were absolutely incredible. Do you ever watch that sort of stuff again?
No. The crazy thing is, I don't watch myself in the old games. I don't watch my interviews. I don't do anything like that. I'm the kind of individual, once I do it, I just try and move on. I get a lot of stick from my mates because, I think for me to embrace stuff like what I've achieved and all the adulation, I find it difficult because I'm just a normal person like everybody else. And so, like I said, my mates do tell me I need to embrace it a lot more. I've achieved a lot and I've brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. But like I keep saying, I'm just a normal person, I was blessed with a little bit of a talent. I just ran with it, and I've been fortunate to achieve what I achieved.
Incredibly modest of you. I mean, you must stumble across images of yourself at that time. Do you recognize that person? Do you feel a connection with that person still?
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes no. And I think when I do look at obviously photos and things like that, to see what I look like then to how I am now, mentally it's difficult at times. Because you're looking at yourself fit and well, and many years later, and I look at myself now, and then, that self doubt always creeps in. I was having this conversation the other day with my consultant. That the self doubt creeps in. You look at your body and obviously the transformation of your body from what it was to how it is now, and all those kind of things. And yeah, it does play mind games. I'm not going to sit here and lie. There's a lot of things that do play mind games now that obviously when I was fitting well, I never used to worry about. But that's part and parcel of having the illness.
You released your autobiography, fast forward towards the end of last year. I'm wondering whether the experience with your kidney disease and your transplant, did that somehow inspire you to get that book done? Because suddenly you were never known, Andrew, for being a very talkative and media hungry football player. You just got on with the football, didn't you? But since you had your kidney disease and your transplant, you somehow found yourself on a public forum talking about your experiences. Did that really inspire you to get that autobiography done? Because you suddenly thought, I've gone this far, let's talk about the whole thing.
I'll be very honest, it was my mate. He just said to me, you fancy doing another book? And I never had it in my mind. I'm tired, I was more than happy being retired, I just want to get on with things. And when he said it, I said to him, go on then. And then within, a couple of months, I spoke to someone, he spoke to someone, and all of a sudden I was doing a book again. So I never really thought about it. And then when I was doing the book, and naturally I was talking about things, obviously Leo, who did the book for me, did the ghostwriting for me. After a couple of sessions, obviously you said leave and go home, and I sit down and think, I said, oh my God, you're actually opening up about things you never ever spoke about before. And I was a bit worried at the time. I think I was worried at how people were going to perceive it, or were people looking at me as if to say, oh yeah, I'm trying to crave a little bit of limelight. And I was worried at that stage. I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I want to go through with this book, by the way, because I think I'm giving away a little bit too much information. But then, like speaking to Leo, he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant, ghostwriter. And then, sitting down to me, he said, no, he said, this is an unbelievable story. And actually, he said, you don't understand how good a story it is. And then we did it, and what came out after that, was all positive.
I don't think anyone could ever say that you're somebody who's craved any limelight, Andrew. I think that's one of the really great things about you. I mean, the whole football generation is very different now. Let's talk about that diagnosis when you got kidney disease. Obviously, you were a super athlete. You probably still are a super athlete, amazingly physically fit. And then this thing happened to you all of a sudden. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, for me, it was so random. To know that I'd gone on the trip, doing my ambassadorial role for Manchester United, coming home from Vietnam. I felt fine. I felt not a problem. When I got home, all it was, I was just gaining a little bit of water retention. I didn't really think anything of it. Lost my taste for food and things like that. And gradually, within a few days, I started putting a lot of weight. And I spoke to my old Manchester United doctor to come and have a look at me and whatever. So he popped round and said to me, look, I think you're going to have to go to the private hospital to get a checkup on that. And I did that, and then results come back. I had a mark on my kidney. So I just went into the hospital. I remember it was like a Monday morning. I went into the hospital. Yeah, it was a Monday morning. And I remember I said to my consultant at the time, I said, look, I've not got time. Yeah, I don't want to be here. I've got things to do. So he said to me, yeah, not a problem. And he walked me in, and then he said to me, have you had any symptoms? I said, no, I've got no symptoms whatsoever. So he said to me, right, what we're going to do then, we're just going to do a little biopsy, and then you can go. So I'm thinking, oh, brilliant, yeah, biopsy. I do not like hospitals. I don't like them at all. So did the biopsy and sat me down, started talking to me, said, look, I think you've got a problem. I said, no, I need to go home. I said, I've not got time for this. Then he asked me about my symptoms and that, and I think within half an hour regarding the symptoms, I had every symptom that he spoke about. Then they just rushed me upstairs and did what they had to do to settle me down. So when he broke it down to me in the end, he said, look, you're very, very fortunate. He said, if you wasn't as fit as you was, you'd be struggling now, because basically you push your body to the limit. As you push your body to the limit, now where you're at, basically you're finished, you've collapsed. And luckily you collapsed in the right place due to the fact that I pushed so hard, my body couldn't take it anymore. So I was in hospital. My body finally gave up when I was in the right place to give up.
Very traumatic, actually, very traumatic experience. Did you go on dialysis, Andrew?
Yeah, I was on dialysis for about 10 days. And the dialysis, I said to my mate, because his mum has just passed with this disease. It's for me personally, it's no life. It's very, very difficult. You run it one day, possibly for 3 hours, could be 5 hours. You're very, very tired after, extremely, extremely tired after. That day's a complete write-off. And then once you're feeling okay after the day you've had it, you're back on it again. So it becomes no life. It becomes frustrating. Constantly sleeping, and yeah, it is very, very tough. And considering what I want to do, I want to still go to the gym and things like that. And, to try listen to someone break that down to me that might not be possible to the level that you want it. I couldn't quite accept it. Yeah, I know I was getting on in age and that, but I couldn't quite accept that someone is telling me I can't do the things that I want to do because I'm no longer in control of my body.
I think that's one of the things about dialysis, isn't it? My husband had 3 years of it as a teenager in New Zealand, and about 2 years this time round, and it was peritoneal, so it was 4 times a day. And we adapted it into family life. We had hooks all over the house where the fluid was hanging, and it became part of our life. We managed to go camping with it. But you're right, it's astonishing and it's effective. It's really, really difficult, and it's the mental battle, isn't it? Really, I just wonder, where do you go to? Do you have a coping mechanism?
Mine is, oh my God, my coping mechanism is not very good. It's not good. So my coping mechanism, everyone gets pushed away. Every single body gets pushed away. I don't want to talk to anybody, and I just try and break it down for myself, because I think that the difficult thing for this, if you don't understand this illness or want to try and understand it, you fight a losing battle. So you got to have people who are prepared to embrace it and try and understand it, and sit you down and have that conversation. A lot of people will look at you, you look really well, and internally you're tormenting yourself because there's certain things that you want to do or can't do, you don't feel particularly well. Or there's a day that I call it kidney day, when you can't get out of bed. If people don't understand those things, it becomes really, really difficult. So yeah, my mechanism is not the best, but it's the only way I know how to deal with it.
Did you not really speak to people?
I'll be honest with you, Nina. I remember when I had the transplant. I remember like it was just today. They give you the transplant, you're in for a week or whatever, give you a medication, and then they basically say crack on from there. Yeah, you've got your appointments, but they don't offer you a service to whereby you can speak to somebody. So I do understand how people get themselves into a black hole regarding this illness. There's nothing there. I mean, there's no you can go and talk to someone after regarding what you're going through, how you're feeling, and that. And yeah, it becomes a bit of a dark hole, especially if you don't have people understanding it. And I found myself in that position. I was in a dark hole because my ex-partner didn't understand it, didn't understand the turmoil I'm going through mentally, not being able to do what I want to do. Or you've been a sportsman all your life, and all of a sudden that's been taken away from you. So when someone says to you, "I'll just get on with it," you got medication, you got a second chance in life. It's not as easy as that, because medication every day for the rest of your life. What kind of life is that? And that's what I said to myself when I came out, and they explained to me before the transplant, you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. I said, no, I can't do that. I can't take tablets every day. They said, well, you're going to have to. I'm like, I was trying to break that down mentally. How do you take tablets every single day for the rest of your life? But like I said, you do need understanding people around you, prepared to understand, prepared to go through everything with you. Your up days, your bad days, the days when you're in the middle, you're not sure what you want to do. If you haven't got that mentally, you do end up tormenting yourself.
I think it's really interesting to talk about the mental impact and the mental struggles. One would imagine with you and with what you've gone through in your career that mental strength would be so deeply embedded in you. I mean, when I look at those old images of you playing, on the issue of racism and black footballers of your generation, Andrew, you were getting it left, right, and centre. And the atmosphere was different. There was no support structure necessarily. It's not something we talked about. And I remember going to see football matches in the late 90s. And I, as a person of colour, I hated watching them because the language that was coming was very hurtful and scary. And I felt I had no recourse to action because it wasn't the narrative then that we abhor this and that the Prime Minister speaks up against the hideousness of racism. But you guys just had to do it and hear terrible things and not have a support structure. So in my head, I'm thinking, gosh, you must have been really mentally strong to come through that. There's a new generation of black football players who are getting it left, right, and centre. But we're talking about it. We're supporting them. The authorities are supporting them. You didn't have that support structure. I think that made you mentally stronger to cope with what's been thrown at you later on in your life.
Yeah, I believe so, because I look at it this way. My parents came to England, the 50s. We both came from Jamaica in the 50s, and as I've obviously grown up with my parents to a certain age, I understood what my dad and mum went through. So my mentality was, okay, not a problem. Yeah, whatever my dad went through or my mum, I'm not going through that. And that's what I made my mind about very, very early. And I'm very stubborn in that way. How certain people used to speak to my mum and dad back then, I refuse to let anyone speak to me that way. So yeah, you have to build out that resilience, because otherwise you will get swept under the carpet. And sometimes people might have believed us arrogant or none of that. I'm just doing things that I wasn't prepared to let people get away with. Yeah, you can speak to my parents like that. Yeah, they have to accept it. But I refuse to accept what they went through. And I think naturally that has made me stronger throughout the years. I think regarding my illness, yeah, to a certain extent, all that kind of stuff I have carried on through. But then I actually realized that the way I used to attack those things, I couldn't attack my illness exactly the same way, because it's a totally different thing. My mindset had to change. I remember when I used to continue to go to the gym and try and make out nothing was wrong, and then realize by the time I got home, I sleep for the rest of the day. And then you start questioning yourself, well, this doesn't actually work. And I thought it would have been a doddle for me, because mentally I'm very, very strong. But like I said, I realized what you did in football in terms mentally, this illness is a totally different agenda. You're going to have to try and approach it in a different manner.
I think when it comes to mental health and not talking about what you're going through, I mean, my husband doesn't really, he's lived with it for decades. I'm wondering whether it's a man thing in particular. I mean, my husband was a surfer. You're a professional footballer. It's the taking away of that is so difficult. You can't articulate that. Do you think it's a fair comment?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know if it's. Look, I don't know if it's the man's pride to talk about how he feels and where. Because I think as men, we have a lot of pride in heard it saying the pride before the fall. And, we don't like to talk about things that we believe are going to make us be perceived as weak, because that's what men do. And I looked at the time, when I was going through it all, I was just trying to break it down mentally for me. Right, how am I going to try and approach this? I'm going to try and sit down and explain what I'm going through. And by the time you're asking all these questions to yourself, you actually come out with your own solution. You just say, nah, I can't talk about it. I'm a man here. It's basically just man up, get on with it, because that's what we get told as men. Just man up, get on with it, move on. And then you get to that stage and you actually turn around and say, so I can't actually move on anymore. I can't man up because I've got so many things going on inside my head that I'm going to have to speak to someone about it. And like I said, you do find yourself digging a deeper and deeper hole for yourself if you're not prepared to come out and talk about it. So I remember when I first come out and spoke about it, what I was going through, I even had my ex-boss call me. And he said to me, Jesus, you are a brave boy, you are, by the way. And I just had to say, boss, I'm at that stage in my life whereby what I'm going through and what I've gone through, for me to continue to hold it, it's only going to cause me problems. So long term, if I can try and help anybody else, you got to get it off your chest.
Your ex-boss, is that Alex?
Yes.
That's great to have people reaching out to you, isn't it? Because there are some other footballers that have also had kidney transplants. So this can affect absolutely anyone, and it's great that Alex Ferguson reached out to you to thank you, really. Thank you for talking about it.
Yeah, I look at it this way now. I'm more than prepared to help anybody, any sportsman who's going through obviously what I've gone through. I'm more than prepared to open up and have that chat with anybody. Because I know it come at the end of my career. I'm tired. I was kind of like enjoying retirement, and then all of a sudden I vote from the blue, and everything changes. So naturally, it's different to the guys who are still playing, and they find themselves in a position that I find myself in now. But I think anyone in this position who can try and help another individual, you have to try and do it. It's and like I said, it's for me personally, what I know now, what I understand so much now, even more so after went to the games, the transplant games, and speaking to a lot of those guys as well. We all go through the same thing. Mentally, we think we can't do things, but we can. It's about support network. We've got the right support network to help us. At times there's been men, there's been women, the partners have ended up getting up, leaving them because mentally they don't want to deal with it. But we all have the same common goals. We still believe we can get there. We just need people to believe in us. And like I said, being at the transplant games and watching those guys play football, I was in tears because I'm turning around and saying to myself, I can actually do it if I want to do it. These guys are showing me. And they're telling me how proud they are of me. I'm like saying, no, you guys are giving me more inspiration than that. I can do what I want to do, still in the position I find myself in.
You've settled into your regime of taking the drugs that you have to take. There's a lot of drugs, isn't it? The anti-rejection drugs. Do you still get good days and bad days? Are there more good days than bad days?
Oh, 100%. I think there's more good days as your body starts to get used to it. The bad days, for me, because I live by myself now, I've still got to get up and do things even if I don't want to do them. It's not as if I can rely on anybody. So the bad days, I have to accept, okay. Yeah, I usually get up early in the morning. You might have to have a couple more hours in bed just relaxing or whatever. And then you've got to move on from there. But it's as I say to everyone now, it's not easy to deal with. It's not easy, but it depends how you want to try and deal with it. And I've had a lot of good people around me, people that I thought I wasn't too sure about. And the way they've stood up has been absolutely phenomenal. I've never known so many people prepared to put themselves out for me and do the things that I needed doing.
Of course, it was your nephew that donated his kidney. I think the really important thing, and you and I have talked about this before, is that transplants are amazing. They are incredible, aren't they, in terms of restoring life to you? But ultimately, they are not the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is not to have kidney disease in the first place.
Up 150%. A transplant is not the answer, but like I said before, and people think, oh, you got a transplant, oh, that's the answer, you can live as per normal. And when you try and break it down, they don't understand. You know, it's not the cure. It gives you a lifespan of possibly, depends how well the kidney works, 10, 15, 20 years. Now, I was having this conversation the other day. I said it was like growing up when I was younger. You know, people used to start a car with a choke. You know, if the choke decides it doesn't want to work, that means the car's not going to work. And that's what it is with the kidney. If you wake up one morning, the kidney says, I don't fancy it today, we're back to square one. I think in the back of my mind, that's what I always worry about, you know, like waking up in the morning, you know, and if it fancies it today and if it doesn't fancy it today, I'm more than happy when it fancies it. But in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, well, if I wake up one morning, the kidney says, I don't really fancy it today, I'm back to square one. So mentally, I'm half tormenting myself thinking, I'm not sure if I can go back to square one again because this is hard work, and it's hard on people who don't understand, but mentally it's hard on the individual.
It's estimated around 3 million people in the UK have kidney disease, and many of them won't know that they've got kidney disease. Kidney Research UK says incidences of kidney disease are rising, and that's probably to do with rates of diabetes, obesity. It's not very sexy to talk about kidney health, is it really? But, you know, those of us that live in an environment or a family situation where you do have to talk about kidney health, you cannot overemphasize how important it is to tell people to look after your kidneys.
It's very important because it's not for me personally, it's not a glamour organ. You know, people look at it, oh, what does it do? You know, well, it's basically your toilet for your body. That's what it does. So it does a hell of a lot of work. Yeah, but it's not like your heart, is it? Whoa. What do you mean it's not like your heart? You know, your kidney moves all the toxins around your body, you know, it makes sure everything's level and things like that. So yeah, people don't look at it, and it doesn't get as much appreciation as heart and things like that. But like I said, as I've got older, and especially working with this illness, I understand it a hell of a lot more. So as I break it down to people, they start to understand, oh, okay, it's an important organ. Well, every organ in your body is important because every organ does something, you know, but this is one of the most important organs in your body.
Tell us about the setting up of the Andy Cole Fund, because one of the most interesting things about this is mental health well-being is right at the top of the list of what your charity is aiming to do.
Yeah, I think for me to be able to set that fund up with Kidney Research, you know, then give me the opportunity to do it. When I sat down and spoke to them, I had to mention mental health because I don't think people understand what you actually go through. So I touched on it previously. When you have your transplant, you know, you're in for a week, they give you a medication, they give you appointments, and they say, okay, then there you go, thank you very much, move on. You're thinking, oh yeah, I feel a lot better now. I can do the things to a certain extent I want to do. Then when things start to get on top, there's not a facility whereby you can actually say to them, well, I need to talk to somebody. No, I found that, you know, when I had my transplant, brilliant, come out after a week, and I thought, oh, yeah, fantastic. And then I realized I couldn't talk to anybody. You know, like I said, I couldn't talk to my ex-partner. I'll get on with it. You've been given a second chance. You got your medication. It's like, well, it's more than second chance. It's more than medication. You know, it's about mental well-being here. I actually need to get things off my chest. But if someone's not susceptible to hearing that, you bottle everything up. So why I wanted to do it and why I mentioned mental health is I want people to understand having a kidney transplant is not a cure. You're gonna have issues. You're gonna find yourself in dark places. You know, you're gonna find yourself thinking about things that you've never thought about before. But we should have the opportunity to be able to get it off our chest. You know, speak to people who understand what you're going through, and that's why I want to do. I want people to understand that. You know, when you think exterior looks really good, oh, you look so good. Interior doesn't work at times. That's what people need to understand.
Tell us where you're at now, Andrew. What does today hold for you? Future projects, perhaps still involved in the football world?
For me, I just try and take over. The last month has been really tough because I went down with COVID. I had COVID really bad. You know, it's one of those touch and go situations again. I'm like, oh my gosh, man! In 6-7 years, I've been there twice. So I just try and get on with things the best I know how. Yeah, there's good days, there's bad days, but like I said, I surround myself with a lot of positivity. Surround myself with real good people now, be prepared to go out their way to make me better, make me feel better, to make me feel like you don't need to question yourself anymore. You need to talk about anything. You come and talk to us, and I feel so comfortable in that. Yeah, there's days that I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I do question myself. I want to do things. I want to do things that I want to do before, and sometimes I push my body to the limit, and I find out the day after that wasn't the thing to do. But that's me, and I know no better. And when people say, "No, relax, chill out," I can't do that. My parents didn't bring me out like that. I watched them work extremely hard before I left home when I was 40. So I can't rest on my laurels now or think about, just chill out. No, I'm built differently.
Well, thankfully for so many people, you're built differently. You say you surround yourself with positive. You're now surrounding people with your words who also have kidney disease or are waiting to have a transplant or on dialysis. It's really incredibly important that you talk about this and that you speak openly about this, because it makes a massive difference. I really do know it makes a massive difference. And your impact through your fund is enormous. So continue to be you and continue to think that you can do absolutely everything, because you're Andrew Cole. I'm pretty sure you can. Thank you for being so honest with us about the difficulties and the mountain that you climb, and encouraging other people just to have a go at climbing that mountain, but to make sure we look after ourselves now, because the world of kidney transplant is astonishing, but we can be one step ahead of it by looking after our kidneys. And I think you talking about is absolutely amazing. Raising awareness of it is incredibly powerful. So thank you so much indeed, Andrew, for joining us. And thank you for setting up the Andy Cole Fund, which is providing support, particularly on the mental health, the mental wellbeing side. Now, if anyone wants to find out more or support the Andy Cole Fund, please visit the Kidney Research UK website, where you will find a dedicated page. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I really hope you found that incredibly informative and helpful. It's always brilliant to talk to you, Andrew.
Thank you.
And to see that you are, goodness me, you're fighting the fight. So thank you for that.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Andrew Cole, well, very interesting and great to hear an insight into his world.